All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Michael DeLon. Michael, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today, man.
Gavin, thank you, man. I appreciate it. So good to be with you. It's always good to be with you, but this is going to be a great conversation.
This is going to be a great conversation. And I want to just kind of start. Usually, I give one shout out because I always want to honor the relationships. I mean, heck, that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah.
And you and we first met back in 2000. Man, time flies. 2019. So we're talking over 5 years ago. We were both at an event, a mastermind meeting that Mike Crow had hosted down in Texas.
That's right.
That's where you and I first met.
Yeah.
And of course, I'll give you a little bit of background on Mike. Mike, when, in my previous business, when I had the publishing company, I did over a 12-year period, I did about 450 strategic partnerships with different entrepreneurs and stuff and growing that business. And Mike was one of the very first really early on partners that I had. And it was such an amazing experience. And it just kind of really set the stage. And I made a few discoveries thanks to Mike.
Yep.
And it really, man, that thing took off. I mean, over 400 strategic partnerships in a 12-year period, and the product that we were selling, we sold over $16 million worth of that product in that 12 years and stuff.
That's incredible.
All via strategic partnerships,
strategic part and knowing the right people. Mike is one of those catalyst people.
Oh yeah,
that we need him. He's there to give, to support, to serve, and help you grow. And so, we all need Mike Crows in our lives.
Yes, we do. And then you and I got recently reconnected through Tom Ruich. And I was at, I've got a good friend of mine that I've known since 2007, Dan Cushell. And Dan was hosting this little get together in Arizona a couple months ago and had invited me to it. And I was like, sure. I was like, I'll go to that because I know Dan too. It's just when Dan hosts a get together, it's the right kind of entrepreneurs, So I was just in. Well, that's where I met Tom. And Tom and I just made a really great connection. And then I did an interview with him for the podcast. And Tom was like, Kev, you got to interview my friend Michael. And he starts telling me about you. And I'm like, I know who Michael is. And I'm like, and that's a really good point. I do need to interview Michael.
I love Tom Ruich. He's a great friend and partner and client and business owner. And he's one of those other guys you really need in your corner once in a while.
Man. And man, you talk about givers, man. Those guys are such givers. And for me, I get to be this guy who facilitates relationships and strategic partnerships that impact millions of people's lives. And of course, when you're doing that and you're doing it right, the natural organic byproduct is millions of dollars in revenue get created as a natural byproduct of all that.
Right.
And
right.
But you can only do that with the right people,
It is, yeah. And I don't know if you use this line, but it just hit me is, revenue follows relationship.
Absolutely.
It really does.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do is just kind of start. I want to turn it over to you, Michael, and just give you the opportunity to share some background so we can set a little bit of context and listeners get to know a little bit about who you are and what you're all about. Because like I said, this podcast is all about facilitating relationships. And in order to do that, we need to get to know who somebody is and what makes them tick and what inspires them. And so I want you to, just talk a little bit about what you guys do, who you serve, and what inspires you most about the work you do and the impact you guys are making in the world.
Hey, that's great, Kevin. I tell you what, I'm going to tell you my whole story. It takes about 2.5 to 3 minutes, and then we'll get into all kinds of. But if you want to know who I am, you got to understand that first of all, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I have been married for in April of this year, April 2025. I'll be married 35 years to my dear wife Jill, and we're super excited about that. We got married in 1990, Okay. And Kevin, the first 5 years of our marriage were like this. So Jill and I fought for 5 years. I walked on eggshells because we are complete opposites.
Okay.
And even though Jill and I grew up in church, nobody ever taught us how to be married. And so after 5 years of conflict, we went to a family life weekend to remember, which is a family life's a part of Campus Crusade for Christ. And they had a weekend seminar that would share with you God's blueprints for marriage. I didn't know God had blueprints. So we found his blueprints, started working on our marriage. This is in the 90s, right? And our marriage started getting better. Now, in the 90s, I was working for Christian radio. I was a Christian radio salesperson.
Okay.
And I found out after 2 years, Kevin, nobody wants to buy Christian radio. They want to sell their products and services. So I had a decision I had to make. I could either become really good at selling or I could become really good at marketing. So I chose marketing. And we'll get to this later in who I'm going to honor, but I bought the books. I went to the seminars. I followed the gurus in marketing to learn how to do marketing for small business owners.
Okay.
And because of that, my business grew through the 90s in radio and helping my clients. Now, in the 90s, Jill and I had two sons, Caleb and Jeremy. They're now 29 and 27 and both married. And then we moved. I left Christian radio, went to a startup.com for a couple of years when Amazon was just getting started. And that company went out of business, actually, because they were ahead of their time. They went bankrupt, of all things. Now, shocker. And so after that, God called us to go to full-time vocational ministry with Family Life, that ministry that saved our marriage. So we moved from Indiana down to Little Rock, Arkansas, which is where their world headquarters was. Thought I'd hit nirvana. Why would I ever leave? Help build marriages and families. And what happened, Kevin, is I climbed the corporate ladder. I served at Family Life for about, I think, a total of 10 years.
Okay.
But I climbed the corporate ladder and found myself on the leadership team of Family Life. And then they started going through corporate reorganizations. And after the third reorganizational chart was rolled out, my name was no longer on the leadership team. So they started shuffling me around the ministry to do different things. And I found myself in what I called prison because I was in jobs that I hated at a ministry I loved. Yeah. And I was stuck in prison for 2 years. And I finally got fed up. I talked to my wife. I prayed. I said, Lord, I got to get out of this place. And God said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go help business owners with marketing because they struggle with it and I love it. And he said, go. So on January 1st of 2013, I escaped from prison and I started a marketing consulting firm, Kevin. And I'd come out and talk with you and say, Kevin, I can help you grow your business. And we'd have a great discussion. And you'd say, Michael, this all sounds good. Tell me, who else have you helped? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I've helped build marriages and families at Family Life. And you'd say, Michael, that's so honorable. Way to go. Oh, look at the time. I've got another meeting coming up, Michael. Can we reschedule and keep the conversation going? And you'd usher me out the door. You didn't hire me, Kevin, because you didn't believe in me. I was a ministry guy, not a marketing guy in your mind. And so I wasn't getting any clients, and I knew I had to fix that. So I went to my church one day, and I was pacing the hallways, and I was crying out to God, saying, God, how do I help Kevin? Because I know I can. And God gave me the idea to take all of my ideas and put them in a book. So in 2013, I published my first book on marketing.
Okay.
And then I would call you. I'd set an appointment. I'd mail a copy of my book to you. I'd walk into your office a week later, and there it was, Kevin. My book was on your desk, dog-eared, highlighted, underlined. You'd read my book. And in that meeting, you'd say, now, Michael, in your book, you said, how do you help me do that? And you'd hire me. And then you'd tell your buddy, and he'd hire me. I started gaining clients. And I stopped. I said, wait a minute, time out. I'm a marketing guy. Why don't business owners do what I just did? Mm-hmm. And I started talking to business owners, and nobody knew how to write a book. And so I went back and built a system of how I created my book. And it's a system where business owners can create a book without writing a word.
Bonus.
Yeah, bonus. And that planted the seed, Kevin, that over a decade later has become Paperback Expert. We are a professional book publisher for busy entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So we work with financial advisors and attorneys and speakers and auto repair shops. It really doesn't matter. As long as you're an expert at what you do, we help you create a book without writing a word. We make you an Amazon best-selling author. And then we actually teach you how to use your book in your marketing to gain clients. Because as a
Got it.
business owner, that is why you should be writing a book.
Yeah.
So we've built this business. My eldest son, Caleb, is my chief operating officer. And through that whole time at Family Life, we adopted two girls from foster care as well. So we're adoptive parents, and we're deeply involved in our church, and that's the heartbeat of our family business, is to serve our clients and help them tell their story in a unique way,
Yeah.
and have a marketing asset that has shelf life, right? A book remains around for a long time. And when you put a book in somebody's hand, it gives them an opportunity to read it without barriers. They get to know you, and it moves them one step closer to doing business with you.
Yeah.
And we've just watched many of our clients just grow year after year after year because they put their content in a book. And well, in our culture, Kevin, experts have books. So that's kind of a snapshot, Kevin, of who I
That's
am, of
really
what I do.
awesome. That is really awesome. So I'm sure you could come up with a number of answers and examples for the question I want to ask, but give us an example of a client that you've helped that you guys are just really especially proud of and stuff, and just really, really grateful for the role that you got to hold in their lives and helping them get their book out there and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I could come up with lots. I'm gonna pick a Lynn.
Okay.
Lynn Godfroy. She's a financial advisor up in Canada. Okay. Yeah. Now she's really good, and she actually wrote a book a few years ago, but
Okay.
she didn't have a marketing plan with the book, and so the book never really did a lot for her.
All
And she got
right.
the idea to write another book, and so she started writing her other book, and she finally hit all the walls. Right? Don't have time. I'm busy serving a client. My business is growing. And so she reached out to us, and we connected with Lynn. We created her second book. And what I found in working with her, this is part of how we work, is I discovered the process that she works clients through. She has a very unique process, but she didn't really discover it. I mean, she had it,
Okay.
but it wasn't named. And so we took a Lynn, and we created the acronym RETIRE, because that's exactly what she does. She renews your foundation and envisions your future, right? And I said, Lynn, this is what you do. I just put a name to it. And
Mhm.
so we also figured out that Lynn, to position her, she's the financial architect for Canadians.
Okay. Okay.
So we positioned her very uniquely. So she's not just another retirement planner or whatever. She's
Yep.
very specific, right? We created her book with architectural stuff.
Mhm.
Then we published her, we made her a best-selling author. And then I said, all right, Elaine, let's talk marketing. What are you doing in marketing? And I said, do you have a database? Do you have people who've like raised their hand, come to an event, whatever, but they haven't done any business with you yet? And she's like, well, yeah, I've got about 587. It was a wacky number. I was like, okay, great. Here's what I want you to do, Elaine. I want you to send an email out to those people, and I want you to say, don't buy my book. And then in the body of the email, you say, I just came out with my new best-selling book. I would love to give you a free copy. And she did that, Kevin. And she had about 80 people out of that list respond and said, yes, I'll take a free copy. She mailed out in the mail, physical mail. You remember what that is? Mail?
Yeah, I
She
do
mailed
remember
out,
that.
she mailed out 80 copies of her book. And within 30 days, she had about 12 of those people contact her and say, we're ready to do business with you.
Wow.
Within
Wow.
60 days of her publishing her book, Kevin, she had already made over $75,000 in new revenue because of one email.
That is so awesome.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
That's what we love to do, because now she just keeps doing it in marketing, but the lives that are being changed because of her book, it was an impetus for somebody to take action and start doing something they know they should have been doing, financial planning. They just haven't been. It was the book that got them going.
Yeah.
And I love stories like that. And we've got dozens of them.
I love that. What an awesome example. And and I love what you said about that, because like I know a lot of people who are thinking about writing books, but they're like, when in the heck am I ever going to have time to write a book? And I'm not a writer. I'm not a
Right.
writer, you know. And so
Yeah.
the thought of being able to write a book without having to write, you know, and you know, technology is an amazing thing. And yeah.
Well, it is, but let me slay that dragon real quick. This is
Okay.
not AI. This is
Okay.
100% human, right? So I have a staff of writers that we actually interview you on Zoom about an hour a week for about 8 or 10 weeks
Okay.
to to extract your genius. Because Kevin, you can talk about your business all day
Oh
long.
yeah, totally.
What we do is we help structure it so it actually makes sense. And
Mhm.
then your book is actually written in your voice, which is because when somebody reads your book, Kevin, I want them to hear you.
Yeah.
And so we use AI and Chat GPT in areas of our business, but not in book writing because we just have it's too early, honestly. It's too early
Gotcha.
for Chat GPT and AI to capture your voice the way it needs to be captured.
Okay.
Probably
Okay.
down the road, it's probably going to get a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But we've got professional writers who love to write, and they're experts at telling your story. In fact, Tom Ruich, you mentioned who introduced us.
Yep.
Yeah, he's one of my clients. We just produced his book, and he's doing phenomenal with it. But I just wanted to make that because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, that you use AI." No, we don't. We help you get your book done in 6 months with actual human intelligence. So, just
Nice.
wanted to put that out there.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, now that we've got a little bit of context set and people listening have a good idea of not only what you're all about, but what there is no hiding your enthusiasm, Michael, for the work that you guys do,
Thank
man.
you.
And
Yeah,
so
thank you. I
so
appreciate
I'm
that.
going to switch gears just a little bit now. So
Yeah.
I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of our listeners, and we're going to dig into some relationship stuff here. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And Michael, I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin, and absolutely, I have numbers of them actually, but the one that I really want to talk about and come to mind because it goes back to my radio days
Okay.
is Roy Williams.
Okay.
And your audience may know Roy Williams. He's probably more well known as the Wizard of Ads. So he's
Mhm.
he's written a trilogy around that. He's written a number of books. Runs a marketing agency down in near Austin, Texas. But Roy's been doing marketing for like 45 years.
Yeah.
And back in my radio days, remember when I said I was at that fork in the road? I could choose selling or marketing.
Marketing. Yep.
I chose marketing,
Yep.
and the one of the people I really connected with was Roy. In fact, right over on my bookshelf, if I could reach it, is a 2 cassette package that he gave away at an event I went to, and it's called Common Sense Marketing. And it's Roy
Okay.
Williams talking for 2 days on his philosophy of marketing. I cannot tell you how many hundreds of times I've listened to those 2 cassette tapes back in the day.
Wow. Wow.
Then I went to one of Roy's free seminars down in Austin, and I did the work and I coordinated a short meeting with Roy, and he sat down with me and answered my questions about radio marketing back in the day.
Mhm.
He didn't have to do that. Out of the goodness of his heart, he sat down because Roy's a good man. And he shared with me for about an hour what I needed to know. I have followed Roy. He does a Monday morning memo, an email every Monday. I've been getting that for 30 years. I used to get it in
Wow.
fax. Remember what a fax machine
I do
was?
remember fax machines. Yep.
That's how it would come every Monday. I'd do it. Then he transitioned to email, and I've been reading his Monday morning memo for
30
30 years.
years. That's some consistency right there.
It
Wow.
is.
Wow.
Yeah. But Roy's philosophies around marketing, how you reach the heart, how you tell compelling stories, how you connect with your audience and take them where you want them to go, but where they really need to go as well. It's impacted how I operate as a person, but also as a marketer and business owner.
Yeah.
So
That's fun.
Roy's had an incredible impact in my life. I've been back to he's got Wizard Academy that's down in Austin as well. I've been there 2 or 3 times. Been to paid to be at his events. He's so influential in my life and my thinking. So one of my marketing principles, I know it has come from him. I think I say it differently, but it's people buy who you are more than what you do.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
But I think that came from immersing myself in Roy Williams's teachings, his philosophies, to go, oh, you need a position, you need a brand message, you need a plan, a named plan. People want to know all that because it bonds with you. That's more important than should I do LinkedIn advertising or TikTok advertising or YouTube? Those are channels. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
say is more important than where you say it. That's from Roy Williams. And I've been preaching that message for over a decade. So Roy
Wow.
Williams influenced me tremendously.
Yeah. So you've known Roy for over 30 years now and been getting these Monday morning memos for all that time. And I mean, that's really powerful. I mean, somebody who's been putting something out on that schedule just consistently for 30 plus years. That's really amazing. That's really amazing. So if you look at this relationship with you and Roy that now spans back over 30 years, and I'm sure you could come up with lots of examples for this. I'm just going to challenge you to come up with one. The first thing that just comes into your mind. It's an example of where you personally, Michael, you got to make a really substantial impact where it might even have surprised you a little bit, where you're like, wow, that is pretty doggone awesome. But you also know that would have never happened if not for the relationship that you and Roy have.
Yeah. So it comes out of all of the teaching that I got from Roy and how I think and how important it is of being different, positioning yourself differently because of your story.
Okay.
Because that changes everything. So I had a
Uh-huh.
client come to me. He's a financial advisor in Houston, Texas. It's very important. And when I met John, it was at an event and we were talking about book marketing and his marketing. And John, and I've told him this, so I'm not speaking out of school. He had the worst domain for his website and worst company name on earth. Okay. His name is John Knight. Okay. Knight. And
Okay.
he took his last name and he flipped it around.
Okay.
Thignt or something. It spells think with an extra G in or something. And he
Okay.
thought it was clever because he wants people to think about wealth and health and
Yep.
retirement.
Yep.
And I looked at that and we talked and he became a client. I said, John, that makes me do mental gymnastics. That's stupid. Don't do that. And John, he knows that I love him. And we've had this conversation multiple times. And I said, John, tell me about your background. I mean, why do you live in Houston? Tell me about how'd you get in financial advising, all that. Well, he tells me, Kevin, this whole story. And he says, oh, yeah, I used to work at NASA. In fact, I'm a rocket scientist. I've got like 7 degrees and all kinds of things. I was a rocket scientist in NASA. Then I got boring, so I left. And now I'm doing financial advising. And I said, whoa, time out. I said, you worked at NASA and you're a rocket scientist, literally. He's like, yeah, I was a rocket scientist. I worked on sending people out in space. And I said, all right, time out. So we pivoted John's message, his positioning, everything. And what we created is now his new company's name is Rocket Science Retirement.
Ah.
John Knight is the retirement rocket scientist.
Mm-hmm.
He helps you launch your retirement with a safe return. Because astronauts love going into space, but what they love more than that, Kevin, is coming home
back safe.
families.
Yeah.
And in retirement, that's what John's audience wants, is a safe retirement. So we took what I learned from Roy Williams that was baked into my head, looked at John's business, his background, his story, and said, you're no longer a financial advisor. You're a retirement rocket scientist. He's the only man on earth that I know of who is a retirement rocket scientist.
Yeah.
And we've built with him modeling of how he does analysis for his clients. We've woven into his business all of these NASA astronaut things so that he shows up differently to his audience. And John's business, when I first met him, he was doing like, I don't know, $300,000 or $400,000 of revenue a year in annuities and different things like that.
Okay.
I talked to him 6 months ago, which was about 2.5 years after we published his book.
Okay.
And he told me he was on track to do 3.5 million that year.
A little bit of growth. A little bit of growth.
Just a little bit of growth. And he's just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of an impact positioning makes, having a clear message that separates you from everybody else.
Yeah.
I learned all of that from Roy Williams. I applied it to John Knight. His life's different. The life of his clients is different. And I'm loving every minute of it. So that's just one story.
Yeah. Wow. That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. And once again, what a testament to the power of relationships right there, that you've had Roy just kind of in your corner all these years. And as a result of this one relationship, you and Roy, I mean, you know, not only did you impact this gentleman's life that you were just talking about, but you ultimately have impacted so many more people's lives because of who he serves, you know,
Exactly.
and the clients that he serves, that now, you know, whoever those clients are, we don't know who all those clients are. They could be other entrepreneurs but those clients, they too have families, you know, spouses and children, and they too serve other clients. And now they're better at doing what they do. And you know, when we really start to look at the ripple effect of these relationships, man, it gets truly mind-boggling, you know. And it you know, it's like, you know, I have been hosting this podcast for 2.5 years. I think we just released, we're coming up on 300 episodes. I know that.
Congratulations.
And it just keeps getting better and better, you know, and I just love talking with entrepreneurs like you around this topic of relationships and being able to inspire other entrepreneurs to just place an intentional focus on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their own lives. And you know, with your help today, Michael, we certainly delivered on that. And for anybody that's listening in on this, I would imagine there's some people even going like, dang, you know what, Kev, you're right. Michael is pretty doggone passionate about what they do. And man, they get some results for their clients. And who knows, maybe they might be able to help me too. How can they find out more about you guys and the work you're doing?
Yeah, if they just go to paperbackexpert.com. That's our website. That's all things Michael, Kevin, is paperbackexpert.com. And you'll find free trainings, all kinds of information. You can connect with me. It's just the hub of everything that I do.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, any last thing you feel led to share, Michael, before we call it a wrap?
You know, Kevin, the one thing I guess that is on my heart that I love to leave everybody with is some counsel that I received years ago, and I started applying a few years ago in my own life, is be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't try to be anybody else. And when you're yourself, people are going to bond with you. You're going to be more relaxed, more passionate. Just take the time, show up like you, because I want to know you, not who you think I want to know. So be yourself.
Amen. Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today, Michael. I'm really grateful for you, and I'm really excited to get this out there and share it with a lot of other entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs. So thanks so much.
You are welcome, Kevin. Appreciate you having me on, brother. I appreciate our relationship.
Same.